bookstore. Well, we meet again. For reasons I'm sure you can appreciate, this is coming to you from an undisclosed trail because there is a very good chance that criminal charges are still pending against me from the last time we did an event together. That was for Natural Born Heroes, and we did a terrific job of reserving that great open air amphitheater up on Flatiron. What we didn't do was secure a permit for the group run up to the open air amphitheater on Flatiron. So just before we had, like, I don't know, maybe 200 people who were gonna run up the trail, park ranger told us if we did it, it'd be against the law, and one of us, me, would be doing time behind bars. We thought we could outfox them by breaking this group of 200 down to littler bands of like 15 apiece and send them up from different directions on the trail. But apparently the Park Service has seen this gambit before. They nipped it in the bud, met me at the top of the trail with a ranger with a big old gun on his side and a citation book. Luckily, of course, the charges were eventually dropped thanks to the good graces of the city of Boulder. Since then, I've been up to a lot of things, but primarily I've been stewing over this idea of a midquel book. Not a prequel, not a sequel, but like a midquel. And the midquel to me was everything I would have put in Born to Run if I knew it then and had the confidence to say it. The reason why I didn't have the confidence was at the time I wrote Born to Run, I was a newcomer to the sport. I was writing that book from the perspective of someone who felt like he knew what he was talking about, but wasn't 100% sure. And to be honest, I think that's the reason why the book remains popular. It's not from a position of authority, it's from a position of exploration. But since then, something has happened, and it basically came down to this. I can't say I'm smarter. I can't definitively say I'm more knowledgeable, but I am more confident in one thing. The guy who trained me for that race, for the Copper Canyon extravaganza that I described in Born to Run, that guy, Eric Orton, he made me a promise 15 years ago. He said, if you change your behavior, if you change the way you run, the way you approach running, the way you approach your entire perspective on what an athlete is, you can change everything about your performance. He didn't necessarily mean going faster, although that happened. He didn't necessarily mean getting stronger, although that happened too. He didn't mean getting thinner, although also that happened. What he meant was, if you tap in to a more ancestral, natural way of moving your body and approaching athleticism, you're gonna reap the same kind of power that our prehistoric ancestors had. So that's the engineering and the architecture of Born to Run 2. But the soul of it is how it came to be. Over the years, two things have happened. One is I've remained in contact with that same cast of characters, outsized characters, who joined me for that Copper Canyon race years ago. And what's been so extraordinary is watching them over the years still embrace that same kind of wild, loose, fun spirit which brought them down there in the first place. I don't think it was a coincidence that Luis Escobar and Billy Bonehead and Jen Shelton and Barefoot Ted were the people who showed up for that race. There was something that set them apart and united them. And to this day, they still run with that same kind of reckless maverick spirit, and they run really, really well. Billy Barnett now lives in Hawaii, where he's known as the Ghost Runner. Billy is still such a rebel. He doesn't like the podium. He doesn't want to get a prize or an award. He'll show up at a race, sign in under an alias like Daffy Duck, run the crap out of that race, and then leave. And so by the time they're ready to call Daffy Duck up to the winner's circle, he's already back in his truck and heading off for pancakes. It was pretty easy to figure out exactly the categories we wanted to cover: food, form, fitness, footwear, family, fun, and focus. All those elements combine for healthy, happy, sustainable running. As Eric likes to say, it's how you can run faster and farther forever. Eric and I spent a good amount of time dialing in all of our topics, our stories, our drills, our exercises, our skills, our approaches to injury and footwear. And then came the part which I can't say right now whether I love it or I hate it. It's the part where you bust out the little old card table, stick it in the kitchen, and sit down for a year's worth of staring at the top of the card table and figuring out what word to put after the last word. You know, it's kind of a weird thing. I am sure any psychiatrist watching this that wants to weigh in can explain it, but I always find myself magnetically drawn to a little table facing the kitchen, no matter where I am. At our farm in Peach Bottom, Pennsylvania, I had built a really cool 26 by 12 foot cabin behind the house with a big old barrel wood stove and a nice view of the meadow across the lane. And I wrote Born to Run there. And again, I don't know if it was PTSD, because Born to Run was an unbelievable ass thumper of a 2-year experience trying to get that story onto the page. But ever since then, for Running with Sherman, Natural Born Heroes, and Born to Run 2, somehow I find myself sitting at a tiny little table with just a notepad in the left corner and a laptop in front of me. So writing this book had some challenges which I never faced before, and one of them was telling the story of our friend Karma Park. I had never had to tell the story of someone who has changed their identity and their gender. It's a tricky thing to do, because to me, I was not going to dead name Karma. I was not going to mispronoun her, but it is a tricky thing as a writer to understand how do you construct a narrative where you're talking about a person who has gone through such a personal transformation without doing anything to violate the persona that they have right now. And I gotta tell you, what was kind of cool about it was I wrote Karma's story and it's in the book, but it wasn't clear to me whether anybody would actually understand what I was saying. And I was kind of happy to say that on Amazon, some very pissed off conservative person was annoyed by the fact that I happened to write about a transgender runner, and the fact that he understood that Karma was in fact transgender was actually a bit of relief, because okay, at least this idiot figured out what I was trying to say. So while I'm sitting at that card table by day, by night I am reading a lot. I probably read way more when I'm writing than I do when I'm not. And I think the reason why is, first of all, you feel this instinctive pull towards somebody else who's engaged in the same challenge. Secondly, I'm also kind of desperate to learn the craft. I want to absorb as much as I possibly can about how to create suspense, how to get a narrative to move fast, how to make people and characters and scenes come alive as vividly but as succinctly as possible. So I was reading a ton during the writing of Born to Run 2, and I don't know if this is surprising to you or not, but it's not at all athletic stuff, running stuff, physiological stuff. I am basically up to my ears in suspense and thrill. I think the reason why is because if you're an Elmore Leonard, a Sarah Gran, a Fredericks Forsyth, you can't afford to dilly-dally around. You know, you can't get all like Edith Wharton-y in your descriptions and of, you know, massive mountains and ancestral manners. You got to get to the point, and things have got to happen. And that's the way I want my books to read. I want somebody to feel like, holy cow, I'm on a roller coaster, man, and I am just heading up and down these climbs. So while I was working on Born to Run 2, I was digging into some of the best suspense books I've ever read. Frederick Forsyth, I think I've read his entire catalog. Sarah Gran, G-R-A-N, whoever you are, Sarah Gran, and your Claire DeWitt mysteries, you are a verifiable genius. You are amazing. Jonathan Moore, who wrote The Poison Artist, and then he wrote another book called 5 Decembers under a pen name of James Kestrel. Those to me are the top books that I read while I was huffing along trying to get Born to Run to the finish line. Hey everybody, as you can see by the dying light, we are running out of daylight. So with this, I just like to leave you with my profound thanks for Boulder Bookstore. Thank you for putting me in a position to get my ass in trouble with the law. I will always do it for you guys. So enjoy Born to Run 2. If you want an autographed copy, if you get your book from Boulder Bookstore, I guarantee you I will make sure that an autographed book plate finds its way into your hands. Thanks, everybody. Hope to see you next time back in Boulder.